What's up guys, MizzoFrizzo from Pitchfork Academy here, and in this Unreal Engine 5 tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to spawn different sounds depending on what surface your character is walking on. So as you can see here, we've got concrete, metal, wood, and gravel. And these textures don't look the best, I admit. I've just downloaded them from Bridge and slapped them on these 4 different surfaces here. But these sounds, they're decent and they're freely available. Link in the description to download and follow along with this tutorial. And what I'm going to be showing you is totally dynamic. So we're going to have light footfall, which is not quite as loud as heavy footfall if we're running or landing, like so. And we're also going to be differentiating between left foot and right foot. So if I walk between these surfaces here, you'll notice that it plays a different sound depending on what the left foot is hitting to the right foot. So it is totally dynamic in that regard. Light footfall, heavy footfall, left foot and right foot. And this is very easy to set up. So without further ado, let me show you how to do this. Alrighty, so all I've done so far is create a new project using the third person template, and the very first thing I'm going to do is make a couple of changes to my third person character, which is in third person blueprints, BP third person character. And what I'm going to do is actually swap this skeletal mesh and its animation blueprint out for Manny's, and that's just because Quinn has her own idle and walk and run animations, and I think one other, and Manny just uses all of the same MM animations. So just to avoid confusion, I'm going to select this skeletal mesh, change it to SKM Manny, and change the anim class here to ABP Manny, like so. And the other thing I'm going to do in here is just set up walk and run so that we can sort of have separate volumes of our footstep sounds depending on whether we're walking or running. So in the event graph, what I'm going to do is first go to the character movement component and check the max walk speed here, and the default is 500. I'm actually going to change this to 230 because if you look in the blend space, the walk run blend space, this is the speed at which the walk animation plays. So I'm going to make this 230 by default, and then I'm going to find the left shift key. I'm going to grab the character movement and set max walk speed. And when we press the left shift, I'm going to set this back to 500 that it was at default. And upon release of the left shift, I'm going to set it back to 230, which is what we changed it to. So this is just so that I can walk, and if I hold the left shift, I can run, like so. Nice. The next step is to get this little level here set up with a few different textures, different surfaces that we can walk on to make different sounds. So I'm actually going to delete, well, I'm not going to delete the floor. I'm going to delete, I'll just delete everything up to about here so we've got some space. And then I'll get the floor and I'll hold Alt and click and drag this up to duplicate it. And I'm going to move it out here, and I'm going to change the scale on the X and Y like so. And then I'll move this down sort of so it's just poking up above the floor like so, and I'm going to duplicate these so I have 4 of them. So I'll duplicate these twice so we have 4 like so. And now let's head on over to Bridge and get some textures to apply to these 4 different cubes here. So we'll click the cube plus icon here and Bridge. And if you're not logged in already, you might be prompted to log in. I'm just going to go to local here and get these ones that I've already downloaded. And you don't have to use these particular textures. You can find some of your own, but I'll show you what these ones are just in case you want to use the same ones. So I've got shoreline beach rocks here. I've downloaded this in medium quality. I'm going to add this to this project. We've got dirty concrete floor here. Again, medium quality, I've downloaded it in. I'm going to add that to the project. We've got old metal panels. to add that to the project, and worn wooden planks. It doesn't really matter what textures you use, but you will be sort of applying the physical surface type to each texture's material. So that's why we're using these separate materials. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my first one here in my Megascans folder and surfaces, dirty concrete, and drag it onto the first one here. And straight away, I notice that the tiling on this is kind of wrong. So I'm going to open up this material, and right here I'm going to check tiling offset and drop this down, and I'm going to just fiddle with the tiling here so it looks a bit more reasonable. Let's try 5 and 5. And that looks okay for now. We'll leave it like that. So I'm going to keep this this material instance open because this physical material right here is what we're going to be changing shortly. I will go down to the next folder, my old metal panels, drag this onto the next cube here, and again this tiling is way off. So let's open this up, drop down the global parameters here, check tiling offset, and let's try 10 and 10 on this one. And that looks fine for now. Once again, dock this up here, keep this open, and go to the next folder, open this one up, open up global and check tiling offset, and again let's try 10 and 10, and yep, that'll do for now. Dock this up here, go to the next folder, worn wooden planks, drop this onto here and open this up, drop down global, check tiling offset, and change the tiling on the X and the Y to 10 and 10. It looks a little bit small. Let's do 5 and 5 and keep this open. And if you notice this visual glitch right here, it's just because these cubes are overlapping ever so slightly. So might try and fix that. I might just change my grid snapping to 1 unit and make sure these aren't overlapping. Nice. The next step would be to create some physical material types to sort of apply to each of these material instances. And then that way, no matter where you placed, for example, this concrete, if you placed it on this cube right here, then it would be sort of scalable. This would always be recognized as the physical material that you've assigned to that material. I'm just going to undo that. So what we need to do is open our project settings, so edit and project settings. And if you search for physical surface, you'll get this list of physical surface types, and we've got the default, which is the default, and then you can add custom surface types here. So we're going to add our 4 surface types, going to add concrete, going to add metal, and let's call this one gravel, and we'll call this one wood, like so. Nice. So this adds them here to the physical surface types, but now we need to actually create physical materials and assign these surface types to those physical materials. So let's go to our content folder and right click and create a new folder, and let's just call it physical materials and open this up, and we can right click here, and under physics you'll find physical material. Now you can select physical material here and hit select, and it will create one. Now the naming convention that they use, that Epic use, is physmat underscore, but you do need to be careful because I do believe, for example, there is a physmat underscore concrete in the engine already, so you do need to distinguish between those if you're going to select physmat concrete. So I'm going to name it like that just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Whoops. So I'm going to call this physmat underscore concrete. And let's duplicate this and call the next one FizMat underscore metal. Duplicate that, call the next one FizMat underscore gravel, and duplicate that and call the last one FizMat underscore wood. Now we need to open each of these, and if we open up FizMat concrete, you'll see down here in surface type, we can now select from those surface types that we created in the project settings. So we're going to change this to the respective surface type, FizMat concrete to concrete, save and close that, open up gravel, change it to gravel, whoops, save and close that, open up metal, change it to metal, save and close that, and wood, change it to wood, save and close that. And now that we have these physical materials here, we can assign them to the material instances that we've applied to these cubes here. That's why we've kept these open. So in MI dirty concrete floor, I'm going to change the physical material to FizMat concrete. And if you hover here, you can see the path of where this asset is saved, and it's saved in the physical materials folder that we created. I can see a typo there, so I'm going to fix that right away because that drives me a little bit crazy. Physical materials. So FizMat concrete on the MI dirty concrete floor, and in old metal panels we're going to find FizMat metal, and here is what I was talking about. So FizMat metal already exists in the engine, and you could use that one, but we're going to use the one that we've created. So if you hover this one, you'll see it's in game physical materials. If you hover over this one, you'll see it's in engine materials. So we're going to use the one that we've created in physical materials, save and close that. And shoreline beach, this one's going to be FizMat underscore gravel, save and close that. And this wooden one is going to be FizMat wood. Select that, save and close that. And now the engine kind of knows we can get data from these surfaces that tell it what sort of surface type it is, and then we can execute different code depending on what that is. So that's what we're going to do in a moment, but let's first just import our sound effects into the project. So in content, I'm just going to right click, create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it Footstep SFX. And if you download the zip that's linked in the description, you'll find these footstep sound effects. So if you unzip those, and then all you have to do is select all of these and drag them into your content browser, and they will import like so. These are not the best sound effects, but they will more than do as placeholders. So we've got a couple of different concrete sound effects. We've got grass, which is not great. I'm not actually going to be using these ones today, but these could also be used for snow. Perhaps if you increased the pitch slightly, they could sound quite a lot like walking through snow. We've got gravel here. These ones are quite nice. Metal as well. These are decent. And wood, I think these are also pretty decent. So I think they're all actually pretty good sound effects apart from the grass ones, and these ones are free to use. They're off of freesound.org, great website for especially for prototyping and finding some placeholders, but yeah, you can use these for whatever you like. And so now that we've got these imported, let's create some sound cues from them. So essentially you want to select all of the ones of the same type. So select the two concrete ones. I'm going to right click and create single cue. And I'm just going to get rid of this 2 here, just call it Footstep concrete cue. And if you open this up, you'll see that it's got this random node and then the 2 different wave files here plugged into the random node. So this sound cue will just select a different sound every time. If you just hit play cue, it's just going to be random. So let's go ahead and create a different cue for each sound type. I'm not going to use grass in this tutorial, so I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to select the 4 gravel ones and right click, create single cue. And again, I'm just going to remove this number, so it's just footstep gravel underscore cue. And that's literally all we need to do to create a cue. We can do the same with metal, right click, create single cue, name it whatever you like. Select the wood ones, right click, create single cue, and name it whatever you like. And so these cues are a really good way to basically just randomly play a selection of sounds. If you have very similar sounds and you want it to randomly select, if I, for example, press play on the gravel one, it's going to play a different sound every time from those 4 different sounds, which is quite nice. Alrighty. So now that we've got the physical materials on these material instances and we have our sounds and everything, we need to sort of set up some logic that will play a sound when our character's foot falls to the ground. And that's going to be done using anim notifiers inside of the animations. So for the third person template, the animations are in characters, mannequins, animations, and we switched it to many. So if we open up many, these are all of the animations that we will need. We are also going to actually create an enumeration, which is going to help separate between left and right and light and heavy footfall, but we'll do that in a moment. First, we'll just add some anim notifiers to these animations. So we can start with land. Let's go to land, and if we open land, we can pause it and go back to the start. And as we can see, this is a land animation, so it only happens when our capsule component hits the ground, so it happens pretty much right away. But as you can see here, the left foot kind of lands before the right foot. So just whatever your animations look like, you can use your own logic here, but I'm going to place a left footstep when she first lands, and then a right footstep a moment later when that right foot lands. So what we can do under notifies here is drop down track and add notify track, and let's just call it footsteps. And then in this notify track right here, footsteps, we can right click and add notify. I'm going to add a new notify, and I'm going to call this footstep underscore left underscore heavy for heavy footfall, and hit enter. And this I'm going to place right at the very beginning of this animation. And I'm also going to add another notify, create a new notify, and call this one footstep underscore left underscore heavy, and press enter. And this one I'm going to place right here where the right foot lands, right there, like so. So that's all we need to do in here is add these notifiers, because we are going to soon set up some code that will execute when these notifiers are called. So we can save this and close this and go to the next animation, run forward. We can pause this, take it back to the first frame, and again, we just want to look at when there is footfall and place notifiers at that moment. So you can see there is already sort of notifiers here in this track, just called 1, but we're going to place our own. We're going to create a new notify track, and again, call it footsteps. And because we're running here, we're going to use the heavy footfall one. So we've already created those. We can go to add notify, and we've got footstep L heavy here. Don't know where footstep R heavy has gone. In land. Did I accidentally call the second one L heavy instead of R heavy? I think that's what I've done. My mistake, guys. So I do need to call this footstep underscore R underscore heavy. My bad, guys. So footstep L heavy and footstep R heavy. And then in run forward, can pause this, and right here, add new notify, footstep R heavy, and I'm just going to double check that that is where I want it to be, which is, it's a little bit early there, so I'm going to move it to about here. And again, this one is a little bit early. I'll move it to about there. And all you're doing is going through the animation, finding where there is footfall, and adding notifiers like so. And making sure that you add the correct notify there. So left or right, light or heavy. We haven't created light yet, but yeah. Nice. So that's the run done. Save and close that. And let's go to walk forward, the last one, and we are going to create some light footfall notifies here for the walking one. So let's make a new notify track, call it footsteps, right click in footsteps, add notify, new notify, and we'll call it footstep underscore L underscore light for light footfall. And put it there. Add a new notify, footstep underscore right underscore light. And that's exactly where I want it to be. And go through the animation, underscore L light, underscore R light, so on and so forth until you've done the whole animation. And then that should be all we need to do in here. We can save and close that. And we're going to execute this code in the animation blueprint, but just before we do that, in our footstep SFX folder, I'm just going to right click and go to blueprint enumeration, and I'm going to call this E underscore footstep. I don't need any more detail than that. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to add 4 enumerators, and I'm going to call it left light. Let's do left heavy, right light, and right heavy. Save and close that. And now we're going to open our animation blueprint. So if you select your mesh here, where we selected the anim class over here, you can just browse to that. It is in the mannequins and animations folder. Open up ABP Many, and right here in the event graph, what we're going to do is type in event anim. And if you scroll up, you'll see all these event anim notifiers, and here's the anim notifiers that we created. So we need to add all of these. Let's do, I'm just going to copy paste event anim to save me typing it in 4 times. Footstep L light, and then we can get footstep L heavy, R light, and R heavy, like so. And the first thing we want to do when these events get called is set that enumerator so that we can use it to select a few different options with our footsteps. So let's add a variable, and we'll call it footstep type, and that's going to be of type our E underscore footstep that we created, E footstep. Compile, save that, and let's alt click and drag that out, and we're going to duplicate that 3 times. So we've got 4 of them. Plug these in like so. And I might just line these up to make them nice and neat. And we need to change, obviously, the enumerator to the appropriate one for that event. So this is left light, that's correct. This one will be left heavy. This one will be right light. And this one will be right heavy. After that, what we're going to do is draw a line trace down from the corresponding foot so that we can see what type of surface type our character is walking on. So let's just drag off of any of these and find line trace by channel. And actually, these are all going to plug into here. And this is why we're using an enumeration so that we can just have one set of code for all of our types of footsteps. So what we can do here is we can draw down from the foot. And if you want to know what sort of bone you want to use for this line trace, what you can do is click this little icon here to take you to the skeletal asset. And then here, what we can do is go to character, bones, all hierarchy, and see the hierarchy of our skeleton. And then down here, you could use the foot bone, but the foot bone is sort of back here at the ankle. You can also use the ball joint right here, which is what I'm going to use. So if your character is different, you just want to have a look at the skeleton and make sure you know the name of the bone you want to use, because this name has to be exactly correct. So we're going to use ball_R and ball_L. If we go back to the animation blueprint here, what we can do is actually use our character reference here. So under variables, we can drop down references and grab the character reference here. And from here, we can get the mesh. And from the mesh, we can get socket location. And this says socket, but you can actually use this to get a bone location. So right here, we would have the name of the bone location that we're going to get, but we're going to differentiate between left and right. So what we need to do is drag off of here and get a select node. And then on the index here, we need to plug in footstep type. And then you'll see you've got the different footstep types here. And what we need on both of the left ones is ball_L. And we can copy that and paste it into the other left. And then these ones need to be ball_R, like so. Nice. And now we'll select the bone on the left or the right foot, depending on what type of, which event is called, so which footfall we've got. And right here, we can plug this return value straight into the start point here. And then what we want to do is just subtract something like 50 units off of the z-axis. So the line trace will start at the ball joint and it will end 50 units below, which is more than enough to see what sort of ground you're walking on. So just to demonstrate this in real time, what we can do is change the draw debug type to for duration. And instead of drawing this from the ball joint, I'm actually going to start it, let's say 50 units above the ball joint, like so, just to demonstrate what this line trace is doing. So if I hit play now, every time there's a footfall, you'll see a line trace starting above the foot. It's drawing 50 units below the foot, and you can see as by the red square there, it is hitting the surface below, and we can use the hit result from that to determine what kind of surface type we're walking on. So that was just to demonstrate we don't actually want this starting 50 units above. We can just start it at the ball joint like so, and we'll change the draw debug type back to none because we have seen that that's working. We don't need that anymore. Let's first drag off the return type here and get a branch. So we only want to do this if we indeed hit something. And if we drag off of the out hit here, we can also get surface type. And there's the surface type of the material that we're hitting. We can drag off of this return value and do a switch on E physical surface. This is an enumeration of the physical surface types that we added in the project settings. So if you select this, you'll see them right here: concrete, metal, gravel, wood, and default. And by the way, if you add a new surface type to that, so if I go to my project settings and I search for physical surface and I add a new surface type here, let's say sand, and I go back to my animation blueprint, you won't see it there. And you could delete this and replace this node and then it would appear, or you can just right click and go to refresh nodes, and then you'll see that sand has appeared like so. Nice. I'm also going to drag off of the out hit here and break hit result. And all we're going to need from this is the hit location to play a sound at location. So what we can do is play sound at location. And the sound here, I'm actually going to promote to a variable, and let's just call it footstep sound, something like that. And the location is going to be the location from the hit result, like so. That's all we're going to need from that. But what we want to do is now set this footstep sound based on what surface type we're landing on. So let's hold Alt and click and drag out footstep sound. We'll duplicate this a few times and we'll plug these in like so. And concrete, and I'm also going to plug the default into the concrete here. So you know, depending on what your game is like, I'm basically just playing the same sound as I would on this concrete on this default, because if you know, for example, forgot to add a physical surface, a physical material to an element in your game, such as this floor right here, it will just play the default sound. So you don't have to have that be the same as your concrete sound, but this is the way I'm going to set this up. And the footstep sound here is going to be our concrete cue. Footstep underscore concrete underscore cue. For metal, it's going to be our metal cue. For gravel, it's going to be our gravel cue. And for wood, it's going to be our wood cue. And if we plug all of these into here, that should be working now. But one last thing we need to do is distinguish between light and heavy. So what you can do to do this is drop down your play sound at location, and on volume multiplier here, I'm going to drag off of here and get a select node. And again, I'm going to select based on the footstep sound, the footstep type enumeration. And then here we can put in a volume multiplier for the different footstep types. So all of the light ones, I'm going to make 0.25, copy that, paste it in right light. And then the heavy ones, because these sounds are a little bit too loud by default, I'm just going to make them 0.8. Whoops. 0.8, like so. And that should all be working now. If I hit compile and save and press play, when I walk around, I've got the light sounds. If I sprint, that will be louder, like so. And if I walk onto the different surfaces, I've got metal, concrete, gravel, wood, and the default. And if I jump and land, it should make a louder, heavy footfall sound. Don't know why I'm losing frames there. Just my machine struggling a little bit. So that's all working, guys. Very nice. And what sets this apart from other tutorials on the subject is we actually do go into left and right and light and heavy footfalls. So if I walk between two surfaces there, you can actually hear it play two different sounds depending on the left foot, what the left foot and the right foot are hitting, which I think is pretty cool. Nice. That's all we set out to do today, guys. If this tutorial has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.